Hey everyone! In this tutorial, we are going to use Bootstrap Studio, our powerful app for building websites to make a great looking page like this one from Tesla.com. We'll put it together with our drag and drop builder, write some CSS, and add eye-catching animations. First, we need to open the app and create a new Bootstrap 4 design. We'll just enter a name and hit the Create button. This Tesla design includes a couple of high-res images, which we've prepared in advance. You can download them from the link in the description. To import them in Bootstrap Studio, simply select and drag and drop them into the app. Most of the Tesla website has white text on black background. We can add these styles to the body element. Simply select the body from the stage or the overview panel and create a new CSS block. Using the option menu, we can quickly set the needed colors. Now, let's add a section element to our design. We'll just drop this into the body. To make our section easier to style, we will give it an ID and create a new CSS block. The app sees that the element has an ID and pre-fills the correct CSS selector. Once the block is created, we can select it here. Now, when we change any of the options, CSS is generated and added to the block. We set the width to 100% and the height to 100 VH. This will make our section take up the whole screen. Let's switch to the smartphone size and add an image background. Here, we can see all the images we uploaded earlier. I'll choose the smaller version of the main image. The image was set, but it looks a bit off. To fix this, we'll expand the image option. This will expose a few more background settings. We'll center the image, set it to cover the entire element, and disable repeating. It's starting to take shape. Let's see how things look on larger devices. On small and extra small it's fine, but on the middle size the car starts getting too big and it doesn't look very good. We can fix this with some custom CSS. In the bottom right, we can find all our resources. Under Styles, there's a file called styles.css containing all the CSS for this design. Let's open it and create a new CSS block for our section. Then, we will add a media query by clicking this menu. Thanks to the min width, styles in this block will only apply to this screen size and greater. This way we can use a larger image on bigger screen sizes. Just go ahead and copy the background image and paste it here. As you can see here, we have two versions of the hero background, one for mobile and one for desktop. We edit the line to use the desktop one. Now our background image should look good on all device sizes. To further test this, we can open the preview and see how our page looks in the browser. This automatically switches us to Chrome and loads our page. Now, just right-click and select Inspect. This will open the development tools and shrink our page horizontally. As we resize it, we can see how it would look on larger screens. The next thing our website needs is a navigation menu, or as it is called in Bootstrap, a navbar. We will just grab one from the Components panel and drop it in our section. Let's just switch to Tesla's website real quick. So the navigation menu on their website has three sections: a logo on the left, a group of links in the center, and another group on the right. Let's start with the logo on the left. We select the brand element, create a new CSS block, and select it in the Options panel. We have the Tesla logo ready as an SVG. We'll set it as background and style it a bit, removing repeats and giving it proper size. Now we need to remove this text and center the background image with the position and size properties. We're ready with the logo. Now, let's move on to the center links. We can edit the existing links in our navbar. To create more, simply use the duplicate feature. We're done with the center links. Now we need a second nav list for the links on the right. It will be faster if we just duplicate the existing nav and delete some links. We have all the needed menu items, but we still have to align them properly. Thanks to Bootstrap 4, that's super easy to do. Just select the middle nav, go to Settings, and change the alignment. Easy as that. Now let's change the styles a bit to make the text look more like the original. Here we decrease the font size. We also want to use another font family. Bootstrap Studio has a built-in Google Fonts browser. For this design, we will need the Montserrat font, with some extra font weights that we need to enable. Once we hit the Save button, the font is added to our project and can be selected here. We want the text of the links to be all caps. For this, we will write a bit of CSS. The app will help us with autocomplete. Our navbar is almost ready. We only need to change the link's color. Here is the Tesla website. And here is our project. Let's open DevTools and check for responsiveness. Thanks to Bootstrap, our navbar automatically collapses on smaller screen sizes. Next, we want to create these two lines. For them, we will use the heading component. We need to change this color. Good. Now we duplicate the heading to make the second line. Just double-click to edit the text. Let's give them unique IDs to make them easier to style. Create a new CSS block and select it from the Options panel. The first line is slightly thinner and smaller. We'll center it and move on with the subheading. The H2 tag is a good fit for it. It also needs to be centered and larger. Let's open the preview and see the result. Looks good. When we open the collapsed navbar, the text is pushed downwards. This is standard Bootstrap behavior, but it doesn't look very good with our design. We can fix this by importing a Bootstrap JavaScript plugin. You can find the link to this GitHub page in the video description. This library turns the default Bootstrap navbar into this cool off-screen menu. To use it, we copy this CSS URL and link it to our project's assets. We do the same with this JavaScript link. And just like that, our navbar looks so much better. Next, we will do this part here. For this, we will need to separate our section into a top and bottom part. We add 2 divs and give them appropriate IDs. The navbar and 2 headings go into the first div. In the second div, we will add just an empty container for now. To position the 2 divs, we will use the powerful FlexBot utilities that were added to Bootstrap 4. We select the parent section component, go to the Settings tab, and turn on Flex. Immediately, our design got split into 2 parts, one for each of the divs. We can make them align vertically by changing the direction option. Finally, we set Justify Content to Between. This makes the 2 divs stick to the top and bottom ends of our section. Now, let's move on to this part. We'll copy the text. Add a row inside the empty container. Then we add a column. And a paragraph. Paste the text. We want the text color to be white. Now we add another row. This time we want 4 columns. We'll add them with this button here. Inside the first column, we'll make these 2 lines using 2 paragraphs. We give each paragraph an appropriate class. And fill out the text. We can see that the top line is much bigger. Let's style it. As always, create a new CSS block and select it from the Options panel. Change the font size, font family, and make it bold. For the bottom line, we only change the text font to 13 pixels. There's too much space between the 2 lines. We can reduce it by removing this margin. The next 2 columns have very similar content. Let's go ahead and copy the paragraphs. This way, we only have to change the text. In the last column, we have a button. Add a button element and give it a Reserve Button class name. We don't need this part of the selector. Toggle the block option. This makes the button take the full width of the column. We don't want a background color. Change it to fully transparent. We'll change the border to white and make it rounded. Looks good, but it's not centered. Select the column it is in and set the vertical align. Next, we want to add this icon. Grab an icon component and place it inside the paragraph. We can choose from hundreds of icons. There are other icon fonts as well. We will go with the Iconicons font and search for speedometer. Great. For the arrow, we will need a new row. Inside, we place a single column and a button. We're going to give it a class name. Change its style to link. And turn on the block option. We also want to make the text color white. We are now ready to drop our icon. Again, we will use the Iconicons font. This icon looks good. It's too small. We have to increase the font size. Much better. We have all the right elements, but there is too much space. First, let's reduce the container's width. We create a new CSS block. Add the parent's ID to the selector to make it apply only to this container. Set the maximum width to 700 pixels. Let's check the preview. We should also add some CSS to center all the text. Looking closer and closer to the original. Next, let's reduce the size of the first line. Select the column it is in. The maximum size of a column in the Bootstrap grid is 12. We want to take up only 8 of those 12 spaces. Add an offset of 2 so it is centered. There's only one tiny detail left to do. These 2 vertical lines right here. We select this column and give it a class name. In a new CSS block, we add a thin white border. When working with borders, sometimes they can be hard to spot. To see them better, we can turn off the grid lines. We don't need the borders on top and bottom, only on the sides. And we also want them a bit transparent. Here is the Tesla website, and here is our version. Let's see how it looks on other device sizes. We can use DevTools and its device emulation. Here is an iPhone X view. And here is an iPad view. I think it looks good. Let's move on to the next part of the website. Here we have a video and a table with some stats. We add a new section. Let's name it Video and Stats. Now we need a video component. It supports a couple of different video sources. For this example, we will use a clip from Tesla's YouTube channel. You can find this link in the description. We need to copy the full URL and paste it into Bootstrap Studio. There are several configuration options. We turn on autoplay and loop. We disable everything else. We can see that our video is properly loaded and running. Now we need to style it. Centering is easy with a bit of CSS on the parent section. Now we will make a new CSS block for the video itself. We add the section ID to make it unique. Set the width to 900 pixels and the height to 500. Our video looks fine on a larger screen, but on smaller devices, there's not enough room. So this here is the smallest screen width on which the video looks okay. We need to resize it on smaller devices. To do this, we will duplicate our CSS block and add a media query. Notice that the current page width is inserted as a min width in the query automatically for us. Now, when we make the iframe smaller, it will only affect the small devices. For larger ones, the media query version of the block kicks in. If we try and switch between the different sizes, we see that the video fits perfectly in all of them. Next up, we want to add a table for the stats. As usual, we give it a unique ID and create a CSS block. Tables in Bootstrap have an optional responsiveness feature. For this layout, we turn it off so we can set a width manually. By setting the margin to 0 auto, we center the whole thing. HTML tables consist of a header and a body, each containing rows and columns. We'll start with the header. Right now, we have 2 cells here. We only need one so we can delete the other. To make the remaining cell take up the whole row, we set the call span to 2. Let's change the text. Now we want to align it to the left. We'll need some CSS for that. Looks good. Now for the body, we want 2 columns, aligned to the edges. We already have the 2-column layout. We just need to add some styles. Remove the second row for now. Give the 2 cells distinct classes. We align the left column text. Then the same for the right one. We'll also make it bold. Now we add the text. To make the next row, simply duplicate the existing one and change the text. Here is the Tesla website. And here is our project. We're almost there. Just a couple more tweaks needed. There's a bit of extra space on each side of the text. We can remove it by reducing the left padding of this column and the right padding of the other column. The table header needs the same treatment. We also don't want that top border. To remove it, add a CSS style setting it to 0. There's no space after the table. We need to add some bottom margin. Let's make that 250. And maybe reduce the font size a bit. Our table is looking good. As always, we resize the window and test. At this point, the table starts moving out of bounds. More precisely, we can see the problem is with this device size. Since our styles work for everything above that, we can still use them. We just need to place them in a media query. Just like with the video element earlier, we duplicate the CSS block. Now medium-sized and larger devices are taken care of. For smaller ones, we can edit the other block. Let's check the preview again. Great. We can move on to the next section. Here, we have a large background image with some text. In the app, add another section. We'll name this one Arrow. We need it to take up one full screen. A width of 100% and height of 100 VH will do. This is the image we need, but we have to style it a bit. Center position, size to cover, no repeat. For this text right here, we'll need a container. Inside, add a row. And 2 columns. On the left, we insert a heading. And a paragraph on the right. We'll copy the text. Now we need to move this text here below the car. For this, we're going to use Flexbox again. Turn on Flex. Now in the Align Items dropdown, we have a couple of options. Start is the default. End sends our text to the bottom. Center in the middle. We'll leave it in the center. Now to move it below the car, we'll need some CSS on the container. By changing the top margin, we can move the whole element. Looks good. Let's check the preview. This text is a bit too large. We can try using a different heading tag. H3 is about right. We'll also change the font. As always, let's test the layout on different screen sizes. I don't like how small these columns got. They're too narrow. The Bootstrap grid allows us to change the size of a column, depending on how big the screen is. On the smallest screen, it's fine. On the second smallest, or SM, we'll make the column take up the whole 12 spaces. And on the middle size, we'll set it to 6, or half of the row. Everything seems fine now. Our next section has an image with a text caption. Like every other section, we add a new component and give it an ID. Set the width and height. Now we want this image with a caption. There's a Bootstrap component just for that. It's called Figure. As you can see, it has an image and a paragraph inside. We can choose the image by clicking here. It took up the whole screen. We don't want that. To fix it, we will change the figure's max width. That's about the right size. We can center the figure with Flexbox. Align items controls the vertical position. And justify content the horizontal. Awesome. Let's update the text. Just a bit of CSS to make it white. And add some more space on top. For this title, we'll grab a span element and drop it into our text. Let's give it an ID. Now we'll add some space to the right. Change the font size and the font family. Great. Let's check how it looks on small screens. There's too much empty space. Looks like we'll need another media query. This is the CSS block for this section. We'll duplicate it and create a media query. On mobile devices, 100 VH is too much. 60 looks better. The amount of empty space is better now. Let's also make the figure bigger. Again, we duplicate the block where we want to add a media query. Change the max width from 70 to 90%. Now the image and text are much easier to read on a small screen. Next, we have another section with a large background image. We do the same steps like before. This section is a bit taller, so we make it 120 VH. This is our background image. We style it like the others. Now we need a container for our text. We will take a single row and column this time. Add a heading, and a paragraph. This is all the content here. We just need to position it in the right place. Turn on Flexbox and change the Align Items option. Maybe End is better this time. We'll need to set the container's margin bottom to move it up a bit. The position is good. The only problem is, the text is too wide. Select the column and reduce its size. Looks good on a big screen. Smaller looks great as well. Our final section is the page footer. For this part, we'll use one of our pre-built footers. This one would look great. When we use a pre-built component, a CSS file with its styles is added to our assets. To modify it, we'll work directly in here. We don't need this. And this. We need a darker background and lighter text. To add the reserve button, we can simply copy the one we did earlier. Let me change the text real quick. We'll copy it and paste it inside the footer. Move it above the links. It needs some tweaks. First, we will turn off the block option. Center it. Then, create a new CSS block. To make it apply only to this button and not the other one, we specify the parent element. Here, we have a couple of blocks to choose from. Select the one that includes the footer class. We add some margin. We also want some more padding on the sides. A quick check proves that our new styles haven't affected the original button. Now, for the footer links, we'll copy them from Tesla's website. Let me fast forward here. Select the list and make the font a bit thinner. For these lines between the links, we have to edit the list item styles. First, we remove this padding. Instead, set it only to the right side. Now add a border, again only on the right side. Looks alright. However, we don't want a border on the last link. We can quickly fix this with this CSS trick. By adding this to the selector, we make it apply to all links, except the last one. Our preview looks good. The only thing that's left is this line. Add an empty div and give it an ID. We'll give it a width of 10 pixels for now, a height of 200 pixels, a slightly transparent white color, and a 0 auto margin to center it. Let's slowly reduce the width until we have a very thin line. Now we actually want to position it between the two sections, like this. We can do that with a negative margin. Our footer looks great. Mobile devices are fine as well. We're almost done with our website. There's just one more thing left to do. If we refresh the Tesla page, we can see it has all kinds of awesome animations. We can actually make those in the app. Simply select an element and go to the Animation tab. Choose the scroll trigger. There are many different effects available. We'll go with the default one. And let's set the duration to 700. We can see it in the app and in the browser. We'll repeat this for the second heading. The elements down here appear one after another. This is possible using delay. Just increase the delay on every next column. And we get this awesome effect. Let's add some more. Select each section and turn animations on. Now, when we scroll, we get a smoothly animated web page. And with this, our design is complete. Thank you for watching our tutorial. Bootstrap Studio makes it possible for everyone to build awesome websites. Learn more by visiting our homepage and subscribing to our channel for more videos like this one.